see, we were talking about the Eastern Conference teams, and today we're finishing up on a part 2, talking about the Western Conference teams. So, if you did not, go and check out part 1. It's up right now. Obviously, I posted it yesterday, so make sure you guys check that out. And I know I made my like goal a little bit too easy for you guys. You guys blew it out of the water. Obviously, you guys always do that, so I very much do appreciate those people who liked the last video. Don't forget to like this video as well, and subscribe to the channel if you are interested in, relaxing or interested in, sports, basketball, video games. I do movie things sometimes, roleplay videos. I do a vast majority of things, so make sure to subscribe if you are interested. And yeah, I think that's all we need to talk about. So I guess we can jump right into today's video. So these are going in alphabetical order, and I think Dallas might be the first team in alphabetical order. So, talking about the Dallas Mavericks first, who are a very, very exciting team that a lot of people have a lot of high expectations on. They gave them an A-. The notable additions to the Dallas Mavericks include Josh Richardson, James Johnson, Wes Iwundu, Josh Green, Tyrell Terry, and Tyler Bay. And some of the subtractions include that they lost during either free agency or trade Seth Curry, DeLon Wright, and Justin Jackson. They did re-sign Willie Cauley-Stein and Trey Burke. Obviously, with Luka Doncic being the crazy player that he is already, all you have to do is put the right pieces around him, and that team is always going to be very good and very competitive. Now, with the additions of Josh Richardson, that I am probably the most proud of the Dallas Mavericks getting, that's pretty great in my opinion. They also re-signed Willie Cauley-Stein, getting a good big. They're obviously going to play some decent minutes because, knocking on wood, Kristaps Porzingis, I guess that'd just be KP, but is usually hurt sometimes. That's why I'm knocking on wood to make sure he's being fine this year. But I feel like they added some good pieces with Josh Richardson and Tyler Bay at least. James Johnson is an okay addition and nothing super crazy. So I definitely like that. The rookie they drafted, Josh Green from Arizona. I've watched a couple of Arizona games. They're my favorite college basketball team. So he definitely seems like someone who can progress into being a good guard who can play alongside Luka Doncic and even handle the ball a little bit. So I do appreciate that. Now, A- in my opinion is a bit steep. If Dallas would have gotten into maybe like the Drew Holiday sort of trade, if they would have gotten a player like him or a third option at least for Dallas, then I would say we're getting into the A area of grading. But they didn't. Do I think they got better than they were last year? Yes, I do. But like a smidgen, very, very, very little bit. So with that being said, Dallas getting an A-. I don't agree with that. Like I said, if they would have gotten like a good third option to play alongside Luka and Kristaps Porzingis, then it would be probably up there. But I think a B+ in that range is probably pretty safe. Now we're on to, let's see here, the Denver Nuggets. And with the Denver Nuggets, the person who wrote this article gave them a B-. So a little bit over average, which is good. Notable additions to the Denver Nuggets include Campazzo. I've never really heard of that player before, not gonna lie. Michael Green, RJ Hampton, Isaiah Hartenstein, so some really good players coming back for them. And they did lose, obviously, Jeremy Grant, probably the biggest loss that they had. He's going to Detroit as well with Mason Plumlee. They both signed there individually, which is pretty interesting. And Torrey Craig, I think, is also going to the Bucks, so they are losing a little bit of depth there. They did sign Paul Millsap to a 1-year deal, so they at least get Paul Millsap for 1 more year, so that's pretty funny. But so a B-. Okay, so with them losing Grant and Mason Plumlee and Torrey Craig, that's honestly a lot of depth, and not only just depth, veteran depth, players who have been on that team for quite some time now, maybe besides Jeremy Grant, but he's been there for a couple years, I think, if I remember. But definitely Mason Plumlee, Torrey Craig, players who've been there for almost a few years now. I do like the addition of RJ Hampton, the draft pick. He's definitely going to be sort of like a Michael Porter Jr. player where he gets passed up by a lot of teams in the draft, and then they end up regretting it. So hopefully RJ Hampton can be that really good sort of perimeter player who can play with Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, players like that. I think they'd be very well. Jermichael Green is a good power forward. He can sort of make up for the loss of Jeremy Grant, just a smidging, just a little bit. Man, other than that, I don't think a B plus is. I think that's too high in my opinion. I don't know if I'm being like very negative, but them losing Jeremy Grant, Mason Plumlee, and Torrey Craig, those are 3 rotation pieces that they're losing for sure. And they're just getting back Jermichael Green, who I think will be a rotation piece. And then what the rookie RJ Hampton is supposed to play. Like, I'm not really entirely sure. Like, I know Denver is a good team, for sure. They're going to be a high-seeded team. They're always a great regular season team, but with them losing so much depth, and not only just depth, veteran depth who have played with the team for a while, I think that's going to hurt them in the long run. So, I'll give them like a C+. They didn't get any really better. They didn't get, a better option beside Jamal Murray or Jokic, so I think C+ is where it would be. Up next, we have the Golden State Warriors, and they give them a B+ for this offseason. Not too bad. Some notable additions include Kelly Oubre Jr., Ken Bazemore, Brad Wanamaker, James Wiseman, and Nico Mannion, and some subtractions that they lost were Kai Bowman, so didn't really lose anyone, but obviously they lost a big piece due to injury, which is Klay Thompson, but that does not obviously come into the grade. It's just what they did in the offseason. So a B+. I really do like that, and I think a B is in the right area, but a B+, I'm gonna have to say maybe lower than that. I do love the addition, obviously, of Kelly Oubre Jr. That was always rumored to be sort of their next 3 option. I was thinking that they were going to have to do some big-time trade to get him or something like that, but they do got, Kelly Oubre Jr., which is really good. Now, obviously, they still have Andrew Wiggins, who is going to take over, I'm assuming, the 2-guard spot for the injured Klay Thompson, so you still have Steph, Wiggins, Oubre, Draymond, and now your new sort of cornerstone piece to the puzzle, James Wiseman, who arguably can be on that team for the next 15 years. Like, that's super crazy that they got another very, very, very good, talented player to play alongside Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. While they digress, he will ascend, and maybe it will even out the balance of the Warriors. Not too bad, so they can still be competitive throughout years when maybe Steph and Klay start to obviously get down a little bit. So that's a really good pickup. But in my opinion, if Klay Thompson was healthy this year and they still had James Wiseman, I would have been very upset. I was one of the guys who was really, really, really looking forward to the Warriors trading that pick to get a center, or trading the pick to get a small forward, and then trading Wiggins to get a center. One of the 2 options. I feel like they could have been in win-now mode. They could have gotten a big-time center like Andre Drummond or Vucevic or someone like that of that caliber that can give them 15 to 20 points per game, big-time minutes, can play a good center role to match up well against bigs like Anthony Davis, Jokic, Gobert, those type of big-time boys that are over there in the West. So I would have liked them to trade the pick, but now that Klay Thompson is hurt, I think building more towards a set future with these injuries that are happening with Steph and Klay, and Draymond is sort of digressing as well. I think actually James Wiseman was the right pick in my opinion. Obviously, if you were looking through, a magic ball and a crystal ball, whatever, and you knew that was going to happen, that's fine. But at the time, I feel like they should have traded the pick, and maybe they still should have. But I'm going to say a solid B is good. I don't think B+ is anything crazy. And now they would have obviously traded the pick for some superstar player, and then Klay Thompson was still not injured. I feel like that would have been a lot nicer than, Klay Thompson not injured and then having James Wiseman. But, since things changed, I think that the grade is fine. So I'm going to give him a B. I think that's very fair. But, yeah. And then you also get some better, role players with Ken Bazemore. Obviously, we talked about James Wiseman, Nico Mannion, who can be a good backup role point guard for them. He's a pretty smart player. So I really like what they did in this offseason. Now we are on to the Houston Rockets. And they gave the Houston Rockets Hornets or Philly. I thought Westbrook was going to, the Wizards or the Knicks, but they kept them all together. And not only did they keep them all together, you're adding a very good young power forward, Christian Wood, who can be on your team for years to come. You're adding it seems to be a somewhat healthy DeMarcus Cousins player that I really enjoy on the Warriors, who actually played pretty well. And that was off a bad injury. Now it seems like he's going to more ease himself into the NBA, which I would really like to see. It seems like they're going back into big time basketball. You could even, I'm assuming they're probably going to have DeMarcus Cousins start and Christian Wood, but you could even have Christian Wood at a starting center role if you really wanted to go more of a small ball lineup. So I love those additions, obviously. Now, with trading Robert Covington, that's definitely pretty rough. In my opinion, that's when I thought the start of the rebuild was going to happen, but I'm assuming Robert Covington maybe asked to get out of there, or obviously Portland traded 2 first picks for Robert Covington, which I know people think are a lot, but look, in hindsight, Portland's picks are going to be worth nothing. They're going to be good with, knocking on wood for Portland, having good injury, everything's going to be fine as long as Portland can be healthy. Those picks are going to be worth nothing anyway, so losing Rocco hurts a lot, but it's nothing super crazy when you're adding a big-time young talent in Christian Wood, big-time talent in DeMarcus Cousins. You're still keeping James Harden, you're still keeping Russell Westbrook, you still have a good sort of rotation guys around you. I think it's going to be fine, so I'll actually give them a B+, because I thought it was going down the toilet, and it didn't. So the Los Angeles Clippers are up next, and they graded their offseason at a B. These are all really good. If you want to watch part 1 and have more a devastating, grading for teams, make sure to check out part 1. But part 2 is the Western Conference, which are obviously sort of like the better teams. So they gave them a B. So they obviously added Serge Ibaka and Luke Kennard in a trade. Serge Ibaka signed with them. They lost, though, Montrezl Harrell, which was crazy of a loss. JaMychal Green, Landry Shamet, Rodney McGruder as well. But they did re-sign Marcus Morris Sr. How do you lose arguably your third best player on the team and sign a decent role player to a almost $100 million contract and get a grade of a B? That is beyond me. I give the Clippers maybe a C+, in my opinion. Now, I'm sure these guys who graded here are saying, oh, they lost Montrezl Harrell, but they got Serge Ibaka back and this, that, and the other. Please do not compare Serge Ibaka, old man Serge Ibaka, to what Montrezl Harrell can do in the league. How they lost him was so bad, and in my opinion, it's going to hurt them a lot more than what they think, at least in my opinion. I do love the addition of Luke Kennard. I feel like having another good three-point shooter to add on to the perimeter of when Kawhi or Paul George drives to the rim. They have a really good kick-out shooter that they can kick out to, and Luke Kennard can make a lot of decent shots. Same as Serge Ibaka. Serge Ibaka can stretch the floor as well. That's really good, but losing Montrez, losing JaMychal Green, that's going to hurt a lot. Plus, like I just said, you signed Marcus Morris Sr. to a stupid contract. For what reason? I don't understand. We all know that Markieff Morris Sr., or Marcus Morris, I don't know if he's a senior or not, but he signed with the Lakers for like a veteran minimum. So, they're basically the same player. I mean, I think Marcus is a better player, but not worth like $64 million extra dollars. You know what I mean? I don't think he's worth that much more than his twin brother, so that's just so crazy. I think I'll give the Clippers a C+. I think a B, for some reason, is way too high. Obviously, there could have been a worse case scenario with, them trading Paul George or trading Lou Will or Patrick Beverley or something like that. They did keep a lot of good core guys together, which I do applaud, but losing Montrez to not only, losing him, but 12-ish-year-old Marc Gasol player who looks like he's struggling to run the floor all the time, when you know the Lakers' best basketball is when it's on the fast break and you have LeBron James controlling the ball, running up and down the court. You think Marc Gasol can keep up with that? I don't think so, and I think it's going to hurt them a lot getting rid of JaVale McGee. I hated that, in my opinion. I would rather have JaVale McGee right now than Marc Gasol right now, in my opinion. I don't really like that pickup from them. Obviously losing Rondo was a big deal, but I think Rondo is like in like his sort of like glory days years now, where he's just gonna relax. He's gonna play in Atlanta. He's gonna teach one of the best young guards in the NBA, Trae Young. I think he's sort of chilling out now for the rest of his career. Now just winning another championship on his end. Losing Avery Bradley is gonna be huge, and Dwight Howard leaving as well. Those are big blows. So I think giving the Lakers an A is too much. They lost a lot of depth to a team that already had no depth. So I'm gonna give the Lakers, I'll say a B plus, maybe even a B. I love their additions. I think it's perfectly fine. In my opinion, an A or A plus performance would have been them keeping more players, but also adding a third option player like Bogdanovich or a player like that sort of caliber. But they didn't. They did get Montrez. They got Dennis Schroeder. Those guys are huge, humongous, big time upgrades. But like I said, they're losing Danny Green, Rondo, JaVale, Avery Bradley, and Dwight Howard. Those are 5 players who played pretty decent minutes last year. You are making up for Montrez, Wesley Matthews, Dennis Schroeder. But Marc Gasol, man, I don't understand that pickup at all. It's not my favorite pickup. I feel like he's not going to bring a whole lot that they're hoping for. So, could have been better. I think yes, but my God, they did nearly perfect. And I'm very excited to see this Laker team, who is arguably better than they were last year, make another run at the title. Now we're on to the Memphis Grizzlies, and with the Memphis Grizzlies additions, they have Mario Hezonja, Desmond Bane, and Xavier Tillman Sr., with losing Josh Jackson and re-signing D'Anthony Melton and John Conker. I think that's how you say his last name. They gave them a B for their offseason. I don't really understand that. I think Memphis' offseason is good just because they're a young team and they're just going to get better. So I think them getting Mario Hezonja and Desmond Bane and Xavier Tillman Sr. is not anything super crazy. So I don't know how they gave him a B. A B is supposed to be above average. I find this pretty average for Memphis. I could definitely give them a C and call it good because they did nothing. I think Mario is like a good rotation player. They can play. I think that's totally fine. But it's not like they did anything crazy. They didn't get a draft pick because Boston owned Memphis' draft pick this year. So that's why Boston got a pretty good pickup this year in this year's draft. So it's not like you can grade them on that. You can't grade them on, player progression and stuff like that because that doesn't really count in sort of off-season sort of acquisitions and stuff. So I think I'm going to give Memphis like a C. Next up on the list is the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they graded Minnesota a C minus of an off-season. Wow. They added Anthony Edwards and Ricky Rubio. They lost James Johnson and re-signed Malik Beasley and Hernan Gomez. Definitely not bad in my opinion. I think they're higher than a C. I'll give them maybe even a B minus in my opinion. I think obviously drafting Anthony Edwards was the right move. Obviously they could have went big and traded the pick for. Everyone was hoping for like Devin Booker, but obviously Devin Booker getting Chris Paul, which we're gonna obviously be talking about later, is crazy, and I think that's probably why he would rather stay in Phoenix right now. But I think Edwards was the right pickup. They could have had anyone in the draft. They were the number 1 pick, and they drafted, in my opinion, the right player and the right fit. So that's totally fine. They got Ricky Rubio, which, in my opinion, was totally crazy. Never saw that coming, and I think he's going to play amazing as backup point guard for them. I think Ricky Rubio deserves to be a backup point guard, like a really good 6-man type role for them, sort of like how Gordon Dragic was for the Miami Heat. I feel like he played that sort of role with Minnesota, and I think that's a perfect spot for him. So that's why I think I'm gonna give the Timberwolves. I'll give them like a C plus B minus. I'll give them a C plus. Let's say C plus because it's nothing super crazy. But those two guys adding on to a team that's already pretty good and pretty young, you could definitely see them sneaking into that sort of 10th, 9th place sort of play-in playoff series against whoever is the 8th and 7th seed. I can definitely see that being a big possibility. So I think they're not trying to rush the process. They have Cat, they have D'Lo, they now have Ant-Man, they have Ricky Rubio coming on the bench, they still have Okogie and Jarrett Culver. I think they're doing just fine for right now. The New Orleans Pelicans are next, and they graded their offseason with a B. Notable additions include Eric Bledsoe, Steven Adams, which, my God, what a pickup, my God, Willie Hernan Gomez, and Kara Lewis Jr. But they did lose, obviously, the big-time trade this offseason, probably Drew Holiday to the Bucks, Derek Favors, Etwan Moore, Julio Okafor, Frank Jackson, and Darius Miller. They did re-sign, of course, Brandon Ingram to a max contract. So, in my opinion, I'm giving the New Orleans Pelicans a B as well. I think a B is very solid for them because, obviously, the big time thing for me, them getting a real center. No offense to Derek Favors, no offense to Jackson Hayes. Steven Adams at center for them is going to be amazing. He has played amazing basketball with some of the best players of all time, with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, and I think that's going to really transfer over to the Pelicans, and hopefully he can bring over some of that. I don't know. I don't want to say winning because, of course, they played really well in the Thunder days, so maybe he could bring some of that veteran leadership over there. Also, Eric Bledsoe is going to be a good player to play in front of, behind, with Lonzo Ball. I think, man, I have no idea if they're going to start him or not. That's going to be so scary. What's going to happen to Lonzo? That's terrifying. William Gomez is a good big as well. Kara Lewis Jr. is a shooting guard that they drafted, which is pretty okay. And also, re-signing Brandon Ingram is so important because he's one of those players who could have made a run at, the Knicks or some other sort of team and been a franchise player, head dog dude, but he decided to stay with Zion and Lonzo and that sort of young guy group, which I think is actually kind of cool. They are losing a lot, but they are gaining. Probably what they needed most was obviously a starting center. You're getting veterans back, you're getting good play back, and I think that's going to be very important. And again, with the re-signing of Brandon Ingram, you're getting stability in your team, which is totally what you need. So I'm very excited about that. So I think a B is actually a perfect grading for the Pelicans this year. And again, just like how we talked earlier about the Timberwolves, this can be a team that can either be, a 10th, 9th seed play-in, or could even find themselves in the playoffs next year. So that's going to be exciting to see. Maybe playoff Zion. Oh my God, wow, okay, so next up is the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they graded the Thunder an A+ offseason. I think that is the first A+ that I've seen on this list. That's crazy. The perfect offseason, apparently. Okay. They did they added onto their team Al Horford, George Hill, Ty Jerome, Trevor Ariza, Kendrick Williams, Frank Jackson, Darius Miller, TJ Leaf, Polovsky. It's a rookie that I think they drafted this year, in Theo Maledon. And they lost Chris Paul, Gallinari, Steven Adams, Dennis Schroeder, Nerlens Noel, Terrence Ferguson, and Abdel Nader. So, is this an A+ offseason? In my opinion, no. I don't think this is an A+ offseason. I really do think they could have gotten a lot more for Chris Paul in a trade. They didn't get any really good assets in from that. I think they got maybe a Phoenix Suns first round pick in some year. I think it's next year's pick, not this upcoming season, but I think the season after they get their first round pick, which is pretty cool. But I think how well he played in OKC, I think you could have gotten more for Chris Paul, in my opinion. They lost Danilo Gallinari for nothing. They traded Steven Adams for not a lot. I think again, more draft picks. Dennis Schroeder, they let walk. Terrence Ferguson, they let walk, I think. Nerlens Noel, they let walk, I think. So, I think they let walk. In my opinion, I think they did. I don't really remember, but I think they did. So, they traded a lot. In my opinion, didn't get a lot in return. And you're just getting players back like Al Horford and George Hill. So you're getting a lot of bad players, in my opinion. Not bad players, but bad fit players for a young team. So, I know what they're doing. They're trying to tank. They're trying to be bad, obviously, and I know that. But does that make them an A+ offseason? I don't think no. I think maybe a B+ would plus is more favorable than an A plus. I think an A plus would have been like maybe they did a sign and trade for Gallinari, or they did a sign and trade for some other player. Instead, they did a lot of trading for just getting more first round picks. And if you know anything about the NBA, draft picks are not guaranteed. You're not guaranteed to get a good player. So, in my opinion, I would give them like a BB plus. I think A plus is definitely too crazy, and I don't think this was like the perfect offseason, if that makes any sense. Now we are on to the Phoenix Suns. With the Phoenix Suns, they graded their offseason an A minus. Wow, these are some big time grades. Jeez. They added Chris Paul, Jay Crowder, Langston Galloway, Etuan Moore, and Abdel Nadir, and Jalen Smith, while losing Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre Jr., Ty Jerome, Jalen LeKay, something like that, I'm not sure, and Aaron Baines, while re-signing Dario Saric and Javon Carter. So, is getting Chris Paul an A minus move? I think yes. I think this was a really, really, really good move in my opinion. Is it A minus worthy? I think yes. I think this might be an A minus in my opinion. I think I'm gonna go with that because, like I was just talking about with the Thunder, they gave up barely nothing. I think they gave up Oubre and Ricky Rubio. So they gave up two good pieces, but it's not like they gave up you didn't have to give up everything to give Chris Paul. You just gave up a little bit, and then maybe like a draft pick or two. I think that's totally fine. I think, in my opinion, I thought at least you could have gotten, more for Chris Paul, but I guess not. So that was fine. I think the addition of Jay Crowder is going to help out with the reduction of Kelly Oubre Jr. Langston Galloway is a good guard. Etuan Moore is a good guard. A really good, really good three-point shooting guard, actually. Only the three-point shooting part, nothing really else about him is that great, but re-signing Dario Saric is going to be good for, their very weak power forward position, who I think is probably going to get played by either Mikal Bridges or Cam Johnson, but Dario can definitely play that role as well, so not anything super crazy, but I think getting a player like Chris Paul is going to mean a lot for the Phoenix Suns, getting a new, revitalized push for, the next phase of Phoenix Suns basketball, where finally Devin Booker is at this peak, almost peak of his career, where he can now sort of take talent and make them better. So now that Phoenix now can almost be a playoff team, which is totally crazy. And now we're on to, yes, the Portland Trailblazers, and they graded Portland's offseason with an A plus. My God. So Portland got in additions Robert Covington, Derek Jones Jr., Enes Kanter, and Harry Giles, or I think it's Harry Giles III, while losing Trevor Ariza, Hassan Whiteside, and Mario Hezonja, while re-signing Rodney Hood and Carmelo Anthony. So, wow, is that an A plus performance? In my opinion, I'm going to say no. I don't think it's an A plus performance. Now, if they would have gotten, again, a third option player, I think that would have been an A plus move. I love the addition of Robert Covington, but I don't think that is an A plus move. I think that is a perfect piece for this team, but if they could have gotten, again, like a third option type player, I think that would have been a little bit better. The addition of Derek Jones Jr. is good, but I would have rather gotten a more set power forward player than Derek Jones Jr. We did get Harry Giles, which is fine, but I think Portland needed a little bit more depth, because they did lose Enes Kanter did lose Hassan Whiteside. Portland usually does have problems with guarding big players, so I think they could have gotten another maybe small forward, power forward, center type player, where it could have been like a 6'9", 6'10" player instead of like a 6'6", 6'7" Derek Jones Jr., which I've heard that he might even play power forward for Portland, which would be stupid of them to try. I don't like him there at all. Enes Kanter please leave a like on the video if you think Portland should have signed a defensive-minded point guard instead of having Alfred Simons at the backup point guard position, because in my opinion, I would have rather have like a Chris Dunn type player than Alfred Simons at point guard. Just my opinion, but I think an A-. I'll give them an A- for sure. I think this is great. I think Robert Cunningham is perfect. I like Derek Jones Jr.'s game. I like Enes Kanter. I like Harry Giles. I like Rodney Hood coming back. I love Carmelo coming back. You only lost Ariza and Hassan Whiteside. Those guys played minutes, but nothing really crazy. Hassan's obviously the biggest one, but we all know Hassan is such a wishy-washy player. It's better just to have a consistent Enes Kanter than having a who knows what's going to happen Hassan Whiteside. So next up is the Sacramento Kings, and they graded Sacramento a B- with the additions of Tyrese Halliburton, who was the rookie they signed, and Hassan Whiteside. But they did lose Bogdanovic, Kent Bazemore, Harry Giles, I keep saying Giles, and Alex Len, while re-signing the boy, the legend, one of my favorite players, De'Aaron Fox, to a max contract, which is absolutely beautiful. A B-. I don't think a B- is good for them. I'll say a C+, because I do like the addition of Tyrese Halliburton. I do like they now have a true starting center and Hassan Whiteside, so they can move Marvin Bagley, who I think was starting center there for a couple games, to his true position, the power forward. So now you have Hassan and Marvin Bagley in the front court, which I think is a pretty good setup. Then you have De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Halliburton / Buddy Hield, who's still on the team, so you still have some pretty good talented players on the roster. Are they better? Are they better? Man, losing Bogdanovic is crazy. That the whole fiasco that happened, they were going to get some good assets back for him, but now instead, he's walking for nothing, so that's really sad. I think they're going to get like Dante DiVincenzo and maybe some other players, or draft picks for getting him, which would have been awesome for Milwaukee, but the trade fell through, and Brogdon is now walking for nothing, so that is one of the things why I'm going to hit on them a little bit, so I'll say a C+, because I do like the additions that they have, but it could have been better, but it's not. Sacramento is just in a really bad place, and they have been for a while, so let's really, cross our fingers for Tyrese Halliburton that he turns out to be good. Hassan Whiteside has a good season. Hopefully De'Aaron continues to develop a jumper, which is the only thing you can really nag on him and not being a great thing at. And I think they're going to be fine. And also development of all the other players. Hopefully Buddy Hield can cope with maybe coming off the bench with Tyrese, or vice versa, with him and starting with Tyrese and Buddy Hield. I think this is going to be very interesting to see what they do. But I do think they are better than they were last year, just because I think the fit will be better now that Bogdan and Buddy sort of fiasco that's been going around can be done with, and I think they can start moving forward and hopefully in the right direction. Next up, we have the San Antonio Spurs, and they are graded a C+. They added Devin Vassell and Trey Jones, but lost Brian Forbes and Marco Bellinelli, with re-signing Jakob Poeltl and Drew Eubanks. I've never heard that player before, but they've got him back. A C+. I'm gonna give the Spurs I think a C+ is okay, maybe even a C. I'm gonna give them the C, actually. I think they're fine. I don't think they're any better than they are last year than they are this year. I think I would have rather have, unless they're making Devin Vassell a small forward, I would really hope they do, because if he's starting or playing at shooting guard next year, I'm going to be very disappointed, because they really need more forward type players on their roster. They already have a lot of good guard play with Derek White and DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker. They already have some pretty good young guard play. I think adding Devin Vassell to that whole group of guys is only going to hurt his development and other players as well. Hopefully they start making him a small forward. I think they like them a lot. Trey Jones is also a good underrated pickup. I think he can also develop into a good backup role to DeJounte. Losing Brian Forbes is pretty bad, and Marco is pretty bad as well. They're rotation players that you're going to lose, but you're also getting back players who I'm assuming are going to play. Jakob Poeltl coming back is good. He's a good young center who's going to be, developing alongside those other young players. So, are they better than they were last year? I mean, arguably, you could maybe convince me, but I think they're about the same. So I think a C is pretty okay. And last a C- is kind of rough. I think they will be better than they were last year. Maybe not on paper and on record, but I think as a group, I think they will be better than they were last year, losing to a 3-1 deficit or I guess 1-3 deficit to the Denver Nuggets. Because obviously with Favors, you had depth. You could even play alongside with Bojan Bogdanovic and Joe Ingles. So that's a good sort of 3-4 spot to play around with if you want to. Donovan Mitchell obviously coming back, Jordan Clarkson coming back. You're still having pretty much the same players, but I feel like this next season will be a little bit smoother sailing. Now they know actually how to play with this team. Obviously, Utah had a lot of new players that came in last year, and a lot of people were picking Utah to be one of the sleeper teams that could have, upsetted a big time team. Which it's funny how that happened to them, but I think this is a nice offseason. Nothing super crazy, so I'll say a C plus because again, people were very unsure of what was going to happen to Donovan Mitchell since what happened with Gobert and what happened in the playoffs. That was it. Again, if you want to know about the Eastern Conference teams, make sure you check out my last video. We talk about them there. Yeah, I think that's going to be it. So hopefully you guys liked the video. And if you did like the video, make sure you like the video and subscribe. We're almost at 5K. I'm so thankful for all you guys and all your support you guys have given me over like the past month or so. You guys are going insane, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that, so thank you. But yeah, it's gonna be it for me. I'll see you guys in my next video very, 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 very soon. Alright guys.